Welcome to the Robot Roundtable, a high-spirited discussion among some of the greatest minds in comedy about Saturday Night Live, a show that's been the cornerstone of American humor for generations. As your moderator, I'll be navigating us through the rich history and cultural impact of SNL.
And what a history it's been. Saturday Night Live isn't just a show. It's a battleground for freedom of expression, where comedians can push the envelope further than anyone else.
Push the envelope? Please, they tore the envelope open years ago. SNL's the place where you could say what society's too scared to think. It's a thermometer for the country's fever, or maybe it's chill.
Oh, I don't know about all this envelope tearing. It's about making people laugh, bringing families together around the television. It's nice to shake things up, but let's not forget the heart of it all.
Heart? Absolutely, Lucille, but it's also about the mind. SNL's like a mirror, reflecting our absurdities, showing us who we are but with a funny hat on to make the medicine go down smoother.
A funny hat? If I'd known that's all it takes, I'd have just worn a fish head hat instead of honing my wit. SNL has become our modern-day court jester. Granted, one that sometimes forgets who's the king and who's the fool.
It seems we're off to a vibrant start. Each of you brings a unique perspective to what SNL represents in the landscape of comedy and culture. Let's dive deeper as we move along, shall we? Let's jump right in. SNL has morphed significantly from its inception. What's your take on the evolution of its humor?
Back in '75, stepping onto that stage meant stepping into uncharted territory. We were raw, real. We didn't shy away from the edge. We lived on it. That's what set the tone for decades.
The edge is one thing, but it's the reflection of society's absurdities that's fascinating. It started as slapstick, sure, but the evolution towards a sharper, satirical mirror to society? That's where the gold lies.
It wasn't just the style, but who was delivering the punchlines. In my day, women fighting for a spot in comedy was a battle. Watching SNL embrace and propel women into the spotlight, making room for voices that were hardly heard, that's progress.
Absolutely, Lucille. And it's the fresh blood, the new styles they bring in. Like when Andy Samberg and the Lonely Island crew started those digital shorts. It's constantly evolving, adapting to new comedic landscapes. That's the secret sauce, never growing stale.
Fresh blood is one thing, but the true art lies in poking fun at society without casting too dark a shadow. It's a delicate balance, a dance, if you will, between laughing with someone and laughing at them. But pushing boundaries is what comedy does best. It's not just about making people laugh, it's about making them think, challenging the status quo.
I'd argue that societal reflection through comedy is our greatest weapon. It's not just about evolution, it's revolution. Comedy as a tool for change, and SNL has been on the front line, whether through subtle jabs or full-on mockery.
Speaking of change, the platform SNL provided wasn't just a stage, it was a launch pad. The diversity of humor, the range of topics tackled, it's like watching a history class taught through satire.
And speaking of history, we can't ignore the impact of technology. SNL's integration into the digital age, its ability to remain relevant through YouTube clips, social media. It's brilliant.
Relevant, sure, but let's not gloss over the essence of comedy. It's the laughter in the moment, the spontaneity. Digital or not, the core of SNL's success lies in its ability to capture and reflect the absurdity of the present moment.
Each of you brings a unique perspective to the table, highlighting the adaptability and resilience of SNL through the decades. It's clear that beyond just humor, it's a cultural touchstone that continues to evolve with society. Moving on, let's dive into the murky waters of political sketches. How does SNL balance satire and sensitivity, or should it even bother?
Well, you see, in my day, we'd jab at society and politics with a sharp stick, but now SNL uses a bazooka. The trick is not to shoot your eye out in the process.
The thing about satire, it's supposed to punch up, challenge the establishment. SNL's been doing that, but sometimes they play it too safe. Where's the edge if you're always worried about who you're going to offend?
That's right. You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And SNL, they've broken a whole lot of eggs. But sometimes I think they're also walking on eggshells. You gotta be fearless in this game.
I believe the key is finding the humanity in these political figures. Make them relatable, but don't shy away from the critique. It's a dance, and it's not always graceful.
It's like doing surgery with a chainsaw sometimes, but that's comedy, right? You need to cut through the noise. SNL's impersonations humanize these folks so we can laugh with them, and at ourselves.
And yet, there's this tightrope walk between being topical and being timeless. Poke too hard, and you're a bully. Too soft, and you're just fluff.
Exactly. SNL needs to be the court jester, telling truths no one else will tell. Democracy thrives when comedians question those in power, not when they cozy up to them.
And let's not forget, every big shot out there today was once a little shot that kept shooting. SNL's got the platform to call it like they see it.
You know, it's using laughter as a release valve. Sure, it's a tightrope, but without that valve, society's pressure cooker would blow.
Isn't it about balance, though? We can tackle the big issues, make our points, but at the end of the day, it's about bringing people together, not tearing them further apart.
It's clear, each of you sees the role of political satire through a unique lens, colored by your own experiences and challenges. The tapestry of SNL's political sketches continues to be woven thread by thread, each comedian contributing to its ongoing narrative. All right, folks, let's pivot to the way Saturday Night Live has been a launchpad for so many brilliant careers. Lorne Michaels saw something in that raw talent. Lucille, you've seen a few stars born in your day. What's your take?
Oh, Bob, it's like discovering diamonds in the rough. Eddie Murphy was practically a kid when he started. Water into wine doesn't happen overnight, but with Lorne, nearly instantaneous. Nearly instantaneous. That kind of keen eye for talent, it's like finding the right spice for a perfect dish.
Right, Lucille, but it ain't just about spotting them. It's about daring to give them the stage. Look at me. Who'd have thought a rambunctious comedian from Peoria would make it on NBC? It's that SNL stage, man. It's sacred. A crucible for greatness or, the other thing.
Crucible, sure, but let's not get all misty-eyed. It's business, pure and simple. Lorne Michaels knows talent sells. Comedy is a commodity, and SNL trades in the future stock of these comedians. It's genius, but let's not paint it as charity work.
Oh, come on, George. It's a bit more magical, like capturing lightning in a bottle, over and over again. SNL's like this incubator for the eggheads of comedy. You're nurtured, but also thrown into the fire. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And then suddenly, you're a swan among ducks.
Let's not forget the swans sometimes bite. Sure, they've launched careers, but for every swan, there's a whole gaggle of geese who didn't quite make the cut. It's survival of the funniest, and not everyone's stand-up routine is ready for prime time.
True, Groucho, but those who fly, they soar. And the world watches. It changes lives, reshapes the comedy landscape. That platform, it's more than just a stage, it's a metamorphosis pod. You enter a caterpillar, and if you're lucky, emerge a butterfly. Or, a moth, depending on how bright your light is.
And let's not gloss over what it means for minorities. Eddie wasn't just funny. He was a black man who had to be 10 times funnier just to be seen as half as good. SNL gave him that shot, a chance to be undeniable. That's power.
Minority or not, the machine doesn't care. It's all fodder for the content cannon. Make no mistake, the talent benefits, the audience laughs, but at its heart, it's a factory. Comedy, tragedy, all of it.
A factory, maybe, but with a heart, George. A beating heart that pumps out not just stars, but the laughs that keep the world spinning. Amidst the chaos, the madness, there's that laugh, that moment of connection. That's the real magic of SNL.
Magic, factory, a launchpad, or a crucible. It seems there's a bit of truth in all views. What's undeniable is the impact SNL has had on comedy and on launching the careers that have defined generations. Let's not forget, amidst the laughs and the debates, it's that spark of human connection that keeps us coming back for more. All right, we're diving into the influence of Lorne Michaels on Saturday Night Live. His vision arguably shaped what SNL has become. Thoughts on whether his touch is more of a stranglehold or a guiding hand?
Let me tell you, Lorne Michaels didn't just guide the show. He commandeered it through comedic battlefields no one else dared to tread. But creativity thrives under pressure, doesn't it? Or so they say.
Pressure? more like crushed under the weight of expectations. Sure, Lorne picked talents, but it's the fire inside us that made the show, not some grand puppeteer pulling strings.
Darling, without Lorne, you might just be shouting into the void. His vision gave you that stage. He didn't stifle, he spotlighted, he turned raw energy into something palatable for America.
The man's like a DJ mixing tracks, taking all these wild, eclectic beats and turning it into the hit parade. Lorne's got an ear for the zeitgeist. Yeah, we're the music, but he's the one making sure we're not playing to an empty dance floor.
I find this veneration of Michael's perplexing. Would the show have faltered without him? Perhaps. But then again, the sun shines on every dog's behind eventually. And in the world of comedy, we are all dogs chasing cars, aren't we?
It's easy to mock the hand that feeds, but harder to bite it, huh, Groucho? Lorne had a vision, but sometimes that vision needed bifocals. Yeah, he picked stars, but even the night sky has its black holes.
And don't forget, it was Michaels who decided what America saw as funny night after night. His decisions shaped not just careers, but the very fabric of pop culture humor.
But let's not paint him as some benevolent god. This was business, sweethearts. He knew talent, sure, but he also knew ratings. It was about striking the right chord at the right time.
Absolutely. It's like he had a finger on America's pulse, knew exactly when to tickle it and when to take its blood pressure. Lorne navigated those waters like a seasoned captain. Sure, the seas were rough, but the ship, steady as she goes.
A captain with a penchant for throwing some sailors overboard to calm the seas. Lorne's vision might have been clear, but sometimes that clarity comes at the cost of comedy's broader spectrum.
So, visionary or dictator? Seems like there's a bit of both in how you all see Lorne Michaels. His influence, for better or worse, has left an indelible mark on what SNL is today. It's clear, this ship sails because he's at the helm, but it's the crew that makes the journey memorable. Let's kick things off by diving into the world of iconic recurring characters on SNL. Lucille, you morphed into Lucy Ricardo so seamlessly. What's your take on creating a character that stands the test of time?
The secret, dear, isn't just putting on a funny hat or adopting a silly walk. It's about finding a piece of truth in the character, something that strikes a chord with the audience. Lucy Ricardo was a dreamer, and who among us hasn't had outlandish dreams? That's what made her enduring.
Hold it right there. Characters, iconic or not, are mirrors to society, reflecting its absurdities. SNL's got a knack for it, sure, but let's not dress it up too fancy. The key is consistency, hammering on society's nail until it's so obvious it's ridiculous.
That's true to a point, but you also got to push boundaries, man. Making people laugh while you're skating on the thin ice of controversy. That's where the real artistry is. SNL's characters do that. They poke the bear and make us think. Speaking of bear poking, it seems to me that the most memorable characters are the ones who could say things we could never get away with in polite company. They're jesters in the king's court, saying the unsayable, doing the undoable.
Absolutely, it's the audacity paired with vulnerability. You look at the samurai, the church lady, Wayne and Garth. They're outlandish because they're also deeply human. They magnify our insecurities, our dreams, turning them into something we can all laugh about together.
But there's also a craft in knowing when to let a character evolve or when to retire them gracefully. Timing is just as important in the lifespan of a character as it is in delivering a punchline.
Evolution, sure, but you risk sanitizing what made them great to begin with. It's a thin line to walk.
Still, you can't keep serving the same dish at every meal. People's tastes change. The characters gotta change too, to stay on the menu. Change, yes, but let's not undercook the goose while we're at it. SNL characters last because they unapologetically skewer society's sacred cows. Change the recipe too much and all you've got is tofu.
Strong opinions on both sides, as expected from legends like yourselves. It's clear that creating and developing iconic characters is as complex and nuanced as comedy itself. Their legacy, however, is undeniable, resonating with audiences long after the laughter fades. Let's dive into the role of musical guests on SNL. It's been a mishmash of tunes and chuckles. Thoughts?
Well, dear, SNL knew the score from the start. Music isn't just background noise, it's a character all its own. It gave the show a heartbeat, a rhythm that comedy danced to.
That's right. Music and comedy, they're bedfellows. SNL got it. Bring on a hot act and you've got heat, baby. Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo, followed by the Rolling Stones? That's not a show, that's an event.
Look, the music brought the rebellion too. Remember Fear trashing the stage? SNL wasn't just a comedy show, it was a platform. Music gave it an edge, a blade that cut through the crap of the day.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, music breaks down walls. Suddenly, you're not just laughing, you're feeling. SNL didn't just host musicians, it embraced musical revolutions. Every chord strummed was a laugh track for the soul.
I'll say it straight. SNL's musical guests were the cheese in its mousetrap. They lured you in with giggles and left you humming the tunes. It wasn't just about the laughs, it was about creating moments, unforgettable ones.
So it's clear, SNL's fusion of music and comedy isn't just entertainment, it's alchemy.
Exactly. And let's not overlook how these artists influence the sketches themselves. You think Blues Brothers would have happened without those musical guests setting the stage?
True, but let's not get starry-eyed. It was a brilliant move, yes, but also a calculated one. SNL used music to stay relevant, keep the pulse. It's smart, not just serendipity.
Oh, please. Calculated or not, it brought joy. Why quibble over the recipe when the cake tastes so divine?
And that cake, my friends, had layers: comedy, music, cultural commentary. SNL baked a multi-layered cake and everyone wanted a slice.
Let's not make it saccharine, though. It threw some punches. Music on SNL wasn't just to tap your toes to. It made you think, reflect. It wasn't all cake, there were some crackers, too.
It sounds like SNL's musical legacy is as complex and impactful as its comedy, a true symphony of the times. Let's dive into the deep end, folks. SNL has never shied away from the controversial. But where do we draw the line between edgy humor and offensiveness?
Edgy humor is the grease that turns the wheels of free speech. You gotta offend sometimes to make people think. SNL's job isn't to be your grandma's comfort show. It's to jab a finger in society's eye and twist.
Exactly. I went on SNL and I didn't hold back. But there's a thin line, you know? It's not just about can you say it, but should you say it? Humor's got to punch up, not down. Well, the secret to success is sincerity. Once you can fake that, you've got it made. In my day, we had to dance around the censors. SNL just dances around Twitter outrage.
And let's not forget, controversy isn't just about the laughs, it's about sparking conversations. SNL has been a mirror to society's absurdities, showing us our true colors, warts and all.
It's like walking a tightrope while juggling flaming swords. SNL does that every Saturday night. They find a way to poke the bear without getting mauled. Humor is an anesthetic for the brain surgery society desperately needs.
Sometimes, though, they miss and hit a nerve. It's inevitable. Comedy is subjective. What's a harmless joke to one is a deep cut to another.
But comedy shouldn't be a safe space, man. It's meant to challenge, provoke. If you're not making someone uncomfortable, you're probably not doing it right. And yet, we walked the tightrope in a time when the fall meant cancellation. SNL falls, it gets up, dusts off, and the tightrope gets higher.
The key is intent. Is the aim to bring light to an issue or merely to mock? The genius of SNL is walking that razor's edge but always aiming to illuminate.
Exactly, Lucy. It's all in the delivery. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Make 'em laugh while you're making 'em think.
It seems we all agree that edgy humor serves a purpose, so long as it punches up and sparks a dialogue. Comedy, especially on SNL, is meant to stir the pot, not just season it. Let's dive into SNL's role in societal and cultural commentary. How do you think comedy has shaped or reflected society, especially through SNL?
Comedy is the mirror society rarely wants to look into. SNL doesn't just reflect societal issues, it shoves them in your face and forces you to laugh at the absurdity of our existence. Without such reflection, we're blindly stumbling through the dark.
But there's a way to shine a light without burning the house down. SNL has managed to tackle topics like sexism and racism, giving them a comedic twist that's both thought-provoking and digestible. Comedy disarms, making the message easier to receive.
True, but sometimes they push the envelope too far. Remember, comedy is subjective. What's a light-hearted jab to one might be a deep cut to another. They've gotten it right and wrong in equal measures over the years.
It's like walking a tightrope while juggling flaming swords. SNL has this knack for speaking to the core of our societal issues, all while balancing on the edge of controversy. Yet, it's that very edge that has the power to illuminate, to open minds through laughter.
The problem with comedy these days is everyone's trying to be a philosopher without a proper degree. SNL manages to critique authority, expose societal flaws, and sometimes, just sometimes, they make you think. But let's not pretend every fart joke is a thesis on existentialism.
Yet, even a fart joke in the right context can expose the ridiculousness of our pretenses and hypocrisies. It's not about highbrow versus lowbrow. It's about the message, the timing, and the execution. SNL has been a masterclass in that regard.
And let's not forget the importance of diversity and representation. SNL's attempts at inclusivity, bringing different voices to the stage, have reflected the changing norms and values of society.
But have they gone far enough? Sometimes it feels like tokenism rather than genuine representation. There's progress, sure, but the journey is far from over.
Progress is a climb, not a leap. SNL has evolved, stumbled, and gotten back up. Each step, each voice added to the mix broadens the narrative, enriches the comedy. They're more than a show. They're a dialogue with society.
A dialogue, eh? More like a monologue at times, with society as the heckler. But that's the beauty of it. Comedy, especially on SNL, is a one-sided conversation where we, the comedians, get to do the talking, poking, and prodding.
And therein lies the power. SNL has wielded comedy like a sword, cutting through the facade to get to the heart of what's truly absurd about our society. Whether you laugh or cringe, you're engaged, you're thinking. That's the hallmark of truly impactful comedy.
Thank you, panel. It's clear that SNL has played a substantial role in societal and cultural commentary, serving as both a mirror and a lamp, and like all reflections, it reveals as much about us as the subjects it portrays. Well, folks, we're diving into the deep end now, discussing SNL alumni and their ventures beyond the sketch comedy universe. Let's not sugarcoat it. Who cracked the code to success beyond SNL, and how?
Man, let's talk about Eddie Murphy. That cat exploded onto the scene. SNL was just his stepping stone to becoming a comic legend and box office gold. It's like he showed up, showed out, and never looked back.
You're absolutely right, Richard. And don't forget the women of SNL. They've been breaking barriers left and right. Look at Tina Fey. Not only did she become a star, but she also became a powerful creator behind the scenes. It's more than being funny. It's about creating your empire.
Absolutely, Lucille. And there's Bill Murray, transcending the very essence of comedic acting into something utterly timeless. The man is a chameleon. From Ghostbusters to Lost in Translation, he's shown a range that few can match. It's not just about making the leap. It's about how you stick the landing.
Speaking of sticking landings, some of these SNL folks have been about as subtle as a brick through a window. It's not all roses and sunshine. For every Bill Murray, there's someone who's disappeared faster than my last paycheck at a poker game.
Let's not gloss over the reality of it. SNL is a machine, sure, but it's a rare breed that can step out of that shadow and become something more. It takes more than talent. It requires a sense of self that's not easily shaken by Hollywood. Like Will Ferrell, the man knew his brand, stuck to it, and look where it got him.
And what we're touching on isn't just talent, it's resilience. It's about getting slapped down by the industry and getting right back up again, dusting off and saying, "Is that all you got?"
Exactly, Richard. It's the resilience to not only navigate this industry, but to change it to make a mark that says, I was here and I did something incredible.
And in doing so, they've not only crafted careers that are enviable, but have paved the way for those coming up behind them. That mentorship, that legacy, is what truly defines success.
Well, as long as they remember who paved the way for them. The road to stardom is littered with the carcasses of those who thought they did it all by themselves.
A spirited conversation, indeed. Reflecting on SNL alumni's journeys reminds us of the myriad paths to success and the tenacity required to navigate the entertainment industry. Success in showbiz, much like comedy, is a serious business. All right, we're diving into the crux of the future. SNL in the digital age, can it keep its edge, or are we staring down the barrel of a watered-down version?
The world's so sensitive now. If you sneeze funny, someone's offended. But I say, SNL's got to keep its edge sharper than my mustache. If I can take jabs at society with a cigar in my mouth, SNL can surely navigate this so-called era of sensitivity.
Man, I remember when just being real could rattle cages. SNL's got to keep pushing, keep being that raw nerve, or what's the point? If they soften up, it's just slapping paint on a crumbling house.
The issue's not sensitivity, it's authenticity. You can still hit hard if you're hitting true. What's comedy without a little risk? It's like asking a surgeon to operate with a butter knife.
There's something to be said for adapting, though. We can't ignore the fact that audiences evolve. It's not about diluting, it's about expanding what comedy can be, bringing in new voices, new styles.
Absolutely. It's evolution, baby. Comedy's a living thing. Gotta morph, gotta change. You stick to the old script too long and you're performing to an empty house. SNL has this knack for catching the new wave just as it swells.
But let's not forget the tightrope they're walking. Tip too far in any direction and you've lost the essence. It's about being daring, not about being safe.
And yet, it's that very danger, that tightrope, that makes SNL what it is. Walking on air, making something out of what seems to be nothing, teetering on the edge of disaster. That's comedy.
The future's not written anywhere I've seen. SNL's got to scribble its own destiny. Maybe the trick isn't in avoiding offense, but in ensuring the punchlines are so damn true they resonate instead of alienate.
The beauty is in the balance, isn't it? Allowing for growth while keeping that spark of rebellion alive. That's the challenge and the charm.
Keep throwing darts in the dark. Some will hit the board. Comedy's about finding light in the darkness, and sometimes that light comes from a screen. SNL's got more screens to play with than ever before.
Well, it seems we all agree on one thing. SNL must navigate this new age without losing its soul. It's about the laughter, the commentary, and maybe, just maybe, keeping one step ahead of the curve. Well, folks, as we draw this discussion to a close, let's reflect on the roller coaster that is Saturday Night Live. Richard, kick us off.
SNL, man, it's like this beacon in the fog for comedy. It's where you go to see the edge, but also where you see the edge looking right back at you. We pushed boundaries, but that show, it keeps moving the boundaries further out. Gotta keep breaking ground, or we're just standing still.
Exactly, and standing still is how creativity dies. SNL's survival depends on its willingness to challenge, to provoke. The day it becomes safe is the day it becomes irrelevant. You've got to be willing to step on a few toes to make an omelet, or however that saying goes.
But amidst all that challenge and change, it's the heart of the show that matters. It's inspired generations, shown women and men alike that comedy isn't just about the laughs, it's about speaking your truth loud and clear. That's the legacy I see, one of resilience and breaking the mold.
And let's not forget, this show has outlived so many of us. It's practically a miracle of modern science. The secret isn't just challenging the audience. It's about surprising them, taking them down a path they never even considered. If SNL can keep doing that, it'll outlive even the cockroaches.
Optimism, my friends. That's where my bet lies. With every new cast, there's this spark, a chance to redefine comedy for the current era. SNL is like a phoenix, constantly reborn from its ashes with more color and vibrancy than before. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving and setting the stage for the laughter of tomorrow.
And with those insightful reflections, we've come to the end of our roundtable. SNL has indeed proven to be a cultural touchstone, molding and reflecting society through its unique lens of humor. It's been a platform for voices of all timbers, a spotlight on the pulse of the moment, and most importantly, a unifying laugh in the good times and the bad. Thank you to my esteemed guests for their candid thoughts, and of course, to our audience for joining in this journey through laughter, reflection, and insight. Good night, everyone, and remember, the best comedy always holds a mirror up to society, but hopefully a funhouse mirror that makes us all look a little bit ridiculous.